All right. I know you can't see me, fam, but good morning. I have my camera turned off today because I have a ton of extra people in my house again. And yeah, it's just I am sleeping in my office. Good morning, Mike. Yeah, so I have a lot of stuff just all around and it's it's a mess, but that's all right. We're still going to do our live session like we always do on Thursday mornings. I hope y'all are doing well. Good morning, Mignon. Hope you're doing great. Happy Friday Eve, right? Good morning, Andy. Good to see you, my friend. All right, let's get started with the economic calendar. I like to know what planned data is coming out each day before I step into the market. So for today, Thursday, August 7th, we have unemployment claims. That could be a market mover, market shaker, non preliminary non-farm productivity and preliminary unit labor costs at 8:30, 30 minutes before the bell. Then at 10 o'clock, wholesale inventories. Bostic is speaking. Natural gas storage at 10:30, 30-year bond auction at 101. 3 o'clock p.m. consumer credit month over month. So those are the planned economic data events for today. Of course, we're in the heart of earnings season, so always be aware if you are in positions and they have earnings coming up, it's important to know. For me, if it's a long term trade in equity, there's nothing really that I do related to earnings. I already have my buys and sells at the areas that I am looking to buy or sell. So, no big things for me to do in my long term account. My swing trade and day trading account, though, I always know if there is something reporting earnings on that day because I simply buy calls and puts. I do not trade the market using spreads and things like that. And buying straight up calls and puts right before an earnings can backfire in your face, even if the market moves in the direction that your trade is set for. And that's because the implied volatility, there's a vol crush, and the value of the option goes down very quickly and just based on that ball crush. And you got to have a much bigger than expected move typically in order to really benefit from straight up calls and puts. So I will always make sure that I am aware if some name that I am in is reporting earnings and either get out before the earnings report or just say, hey, I'm good with the risk and I'm going to ride this earnings report out with my position. So, next up, I want to take a look at the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq futures as I do every single morning and start with the weekly charts. You can see here last week, we took back the gains of the previous almost 4 weeks. We created a demand zone back the middle of July, from the 1st of July to the middle of July there, and price came directly down to there. And now this week we're getting a bounce and almost all the way back up 100% of what we gave back last week. So if you feel like this has been very whipsawy, it has. We are right at that weekly 9 EMA that we've been talking about for weeks now, waiting for price to come back to the 9 EMA. Well, it's there, it's inside of this zone, and this week's low is right at the 9 EMA. Okay, you do have immediate resistance. This purple line on my chart is a trendy monthly edge. The upper edges represent a playing field of supply. So the S&P 500 here up at 1413 is just about 16 or so points away from this upper monthly edge. Above there, the only other resistance is the all-time high. On the daily chart for the S&P 500, nice price action in that we created inside candles, and today's candle so far is an up candle or a breakout candle, and we're creating an inside and up candle formation. Now, this could all change. Obviously, the market hasn't yet, but you need to be aware of the level of about 63.70. That's going to be a key level today. Why I say that is because that is the top of these previous 3 days of price action. It is also the 9 EMA on the daily chart. So whenever I'm looking at my daily blueprint for day trading today, I want to make sure that 63.70 is a level that's marked on my chart because of the confluence here of indicators indicating this could be a key area of support. All right. As far as supply goes, you do have a supply zone up at 64.35 by 64.68 and a half, the all-time high. Look at the 4-hour chart now and do the same analysis of it. We are extended from this 4-hour cloud. This 4-hour cloud is look right now printing right at this inside and up candle formation on the 4-hour chart. That is 63.82 by 63.64. This is an area that I would expect buyers to step in, and that is also, remember, a key area from my daily chart as well, which was 63.70. So another just further verification for me that it is indeed an area that I would be interested on a pullback of going long from. So 63.82 to 63.64. Now on the 4-hour chart, you have that daily supply zone marked again, 64.30 to 64.68 and a half. The upper trendy weekly edge is setting on top of the upper monthly edge at 64.42. If price can get up above 64.30, then my next target would be 64.42 and then the 68 and a half. But the main thing I'm looking at on this 4-hour chart is this immediate support down here via the demand zone at 82 by 64. Now I'm going to go to a 2-hour chart. This is the time frame of chart that I like to build my daily blueprint that I'm going to day trade based off of today. Remember, I said that I would like to have that 63.70 on here, and I also know that I have a 4-hour inside and up candle formation above where this 2-hour this is actually a 3-hour formation is at. So if I just click on that 4-hour chart here on my day trading drawing set, I can put that zone in here real quick. All right. And then I will go back to the 2-hour and assess how this zone lines up with Fibonacci's. I love using Fibonacci's to trade. I use it for entries and I use it for exits both. So I'm going to run some Fibonacci. And what I want to do is I want to go back here I could go all the way back to the drop that occurred on Friday, right? From this low to the current high. I could run those Fibonacci's, or I could use a smaller range of a rally, and that would give me kind of a smaller time frame perspective to trade off of. And since this is a day trading chart, I'm going to use that smaller range, which is where this rally began on Tuesday up to the high. That's going to give me the 236 right here that I would treat as support. And then you can see the zone that I have marked on the chart from that 4-hour chart, right? That is lining up with the 38.2, which would be the bottom of the bull channel. And the 618 is just below this zone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this price level down to capture that 618 there, because I frequently trade what we call golden pockets. So the 50 to the 618 for us, that is a zone, or a zone that we like to trade off of. So I want that 618 to be part of this zone. Now, remember from the daily chart, 6370 was such an important level for me because of the confluence of the tops of those inside candles, as well as the daily cloud there. I want to make sure on my chart that right at that 6370, I have a mark. Because I like to scale into trades and inside of this zone, I could use that 6370, and I'm going to put it just above, as an area to add to any long positions there. So now let's look at what else we can do. Remember, this level that I marked is the 236 of this rally here. All right. So what else can I mark inside of my supply zone? I want to mark this double stack of edges, right, as a target. If bulls can push price into the red zone, which is the target to the upside for today, then I have another area in here that could be resistance, that would be a trim, or it, with confirmation, could be a level that I go short off of. Also, inside of this zone, because this is two zones combined, this being the first zone and this being the second zone, I want to mark that second zone. So now inside of my target zone here to the upside, I could trim at 30, 42, 55, and then of course the all-time high, 68 and a half. Okay. Once that economic data, right, unemployment claims that's coming out at 8:30, once that data comes out, I will switch to a 30-minute chart. I will take note of pre-market price action, looking for those key highs and lows in the pre-market, or I could use this 23.6 of the rally, and I will put some dotted lines on here that we call liquidity chop. Liquidity chop is where the sellers were showing up pre-market and where the buyers were showing up pre-market. You can usually tell when you have topping wicks, that indicates there's more selling pressure than buying pressure in this area. And then when you have bottoming wicks, there's more buying pressure than selling pressure in that area. And we like to create a liquidity chop zone to trade off of in the trendy room and SPX room. But I will do that after that economic data releases. All right. Now let's look at the NASDAQ and do the same thing, top down approach. Yeah, my Bostic could ruffle a few feathers. What I've noticed as of late, especially over the last year, is the Fed speakers, for some reason, do not have as much influence on the market as what they once did. I don't know if we've become desensitized to it or exactly what, but that's what I've noticed. All right, let's look at the NASDAQ from a top down approach here. I have some fibs drawn of yesterday, last week's candle. Those are on my chart because price got above the 618, the golden fib. That means I'm really looking for price to come up to the 887 here, a key Fibonacci level that we use in trendy trading. And that is 23724. Okay. Then on the daily chart, it looks very similar to ES. There's not a lot of difference except that yesterday's candle actually broke out above the bodies of those candles. So yesterday was the inside and up for the NASDAQ, and today is a continuation candle. Now, notice the divergence from the daily cloud here on NASDAQ and I want to know where that 9 EMA is, and it is at 23,353. So I need to remember 353 when looking at those smaller time frame charts. Sorry, guys. This is not supply because we do not have the inside and down candle formation. The 703 up here is the monthly trendy edge and the weekly trendy edge, and that's why I have that level marked. So 353 is a key level on that daily chart right now. Looking at the 4 hour, here's those Fibonacci levels that I was talking about on the weekly. That 887 becomes a target now that price is above the 618. So I have that marked on my chart here on the 4 hour. Here's the 4 hour inside and up that we created also on the S&P 500 chart. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that as a level to pay attention to. And then whenever I'm doing my blueprint for today for the NASDAQ, I will also make sure that that level is on that chart as well. The 76.4, we'll often see a turn back from there and price come back to the 618 and test it. And I bet that 618 is showing up inside of this demand zone right now. And we're looking for the 618, what was resistance? Yep, sure enough. What was resistance? We're now looking for that to be support, right? So a pullback into this zone gives me another confluence of support. So I would have the 9 EMA on the 4 hour chart. I would have this inside and up candle formation as well as that 618. That is at least three things in confluence in this zone that I would be expecting buyers to show up in. Now, turning to the 2 hour chart, I'm going to go ahead and clear this so that we can look and make the daily blueprint from scratch because we are above where this inside and down occurred, but this is all part of that formation. I'm going to just use this double stack of trendy edges here in the 887 from that all-time high to the Friday low. I want to use this as the top of my zone target to the upside or the potential area to go short with confirmation for me. Okay, so that's how I'm making that zone. You have inside and down candle formation as well as trendy edges and the 887 here. So that's how I'm coming up with my target zone to the upside on the NASDAQ. All right. Then I also, of course, want that 4-hour zone that I had so much confluence in. I also want that on my chart as a potential downside target or an opportunity to go long with confirmation. When I say with confirmation, what I am looking for is in a buy zone, I'm looking for price to start making higher lows on a 5-minute chart. And in a sell zone, I'm looking for price to make lower highs inside of the zone, followed by a break up or break down candle. That's the confirmation I look for. I love when I see trendy turn signals or the Momo reversal arrows inside those zones as well. So this is my first target to the downside or my first buy zone on this chart, but I want to mark this inside and up also. This was created yesterday morning on the big rally that we had yesterday. We did create inside and up candle formations. And in the event that we get some economic data, planned or unplanned, come out and we flush below this newly created zone, I want to know where that next target zone is at. All right. Now I'm going to go back to that 2-hour chart and I'm going to run those fibs just like I did with the ES. Again, I could start from the low that was created, go up to the high. I will sometimes do that just to see where those key levels are that I like to trade off of. But as far as for potential areas of support that I'm looking for. Just for a day trading chart, I'm going to use this smaller range here of where after we had that pullback, then we started heading back to the upside. I'm going to measure that range. I'm going to put my 23.6 here because that is the bull channel and where I'm looking for support. Now, the 618 is all the way down here. So I'm not going to mark that as part of my green zone. But what I will do is put a gray box at the 50 and the 618 here on this chart just so that I am aware below or in between my two green buy zones, I do have a golden pocket that I could trade off of, again, with that confirmation of higher lows in this zone. All right. So that's what I'm going to stick with for now. And then, of course, closer to or right after that economic data, I'll do the same thing as what I will do with the S&P chart, and I will mark those liquidity chop zones, okay, and have that as a trading range or a chop range that we can scalp trade off of in the morning. All right, so I have looked at the S&P 500, I've looked at the Nasdaq. I just want to take a quick peek of the Dow just to see what it is doing in relationship to the other two indexes. And the Dow has gotten back above the yearly edge, came down actually into its weekly cloud, but it is bouncing. It's not bouncing as well or it hasn't made as significant of a bounce as the ES and the NASDAQ, but it is right at a key area of resistance, that golden Fibonacci level, 44,606. So if you trade the Dow, just know that price is right at immediate resistance. All right, I'll look at it on a daily chart. Yeah, it's at immediate resistance on the daily as well. It's at the daily 21 right here. You have a supply zone just above there. You have a monthly edge mid just above there, but it is trying to create that inside and up candle formation just like the S&P 500 and like the Nasdaq did yesterday. All right, on the 4-hour chart, it has obviously immediate resistance above, nowhere near the all time high. It would have to rally like 800 points to get back up to that all time high. Now, I think it's very important just to mention here that speculation for me leads to either exuberance or um, hesitation. So if I'm come into the market with a, okay, what's going to happen today attitude, or this is going to happen today attitude, I find that whenever I'm going to execute trades that are showing me something opposite of that speculation, that can lead to hesitation. Or on the first bell rings and the move is in line with my speculation, that can lead to exuberance, and I will just put on the trade because, haha, I was right. I was speculating that, and that's what happened, or what have you. I get that kind of cocky feeling, right? And then it might have been a fake out or a market manipulation move that I normally wouldn't fall victim to. So I really don't like to be in a habit of speculating what's going to happen today, as far as which way, we're going to trade today, because speculation is just speculation. I would rather focus on my day trading time frame, which is a 5 minute chart, and just trade the levels on the chart, right? If this, then that type approach. Right. So for me, this would be an upper liquidity chop right now. And then for the lower liquidity chop, I'd probably use that 236 right here. So for me, I'm just like, okay, look, if bulls can get price above the PMZ, I know I'm looking at resistance above. These are the levels I'm going to trim. Or if bears drop price below the PMZ, then I'm looking for shorts, and here's levels that I'm going to trim at. I would rather go into the market with that approach rather than a speculating approach. If for me, it turns my trading upside down in that I often lose focus on just trading the price action. Claudia, how did I trace the fibs? Yeah, I showed that, but I will show you again. Um, so as far as the fib levels from the bigger time frame, like right here, if I was wanting to know where we were from a Fibonacci perspective of last week's big down move, if measuring a down move, I start at the top of the move, and then I'm going to drag my Fibonacci down to the low, and that will print the Fibonacci levels that I'm watching here for a down. If I am measuring an uptrend or an up move, right, I'm going to start at the low here, right? Sorry, I was wondering. I was like, man, that doesn't look like a 2-hour chart. Sorry. All right. I would start from here where we created this 4-hour inside and up. Well, this is the bottom of it right here, this candle. So I'm going to measure from there, and I'm starting at the bottom now since I'm measuring an uptrend, and I'm going to go up to the high, and that's how I anchor the fibs there. All right. And then this white line is from that lower zone down here, this move right there. Okay. All right. So let's get started now with the second part of what I do in the morning, and that is to pick three names to focus on for day trades out of the PMZ. So, what I first do is I know that the market is green. So, the bias is looking for potential bullish names, right? Those outperforming sectors first. So I'm going to look down my watch list of sectors and I'm looking for what is up big. What is up bigger than others? Right away, the IWM, so the Russell, that's up over 1%. I can look at semiconductors, that's up 2%. That's a big mover. Looking down here, XLK, the technology sector, is up over 1%. That's a big mover. XME, that's metals and mining, it's up over 1%. That's a big mover. What is underperforming? What is red? You got bonds, they're a little red, they're really flat. Right down here, healthcare, that one is red, down a half percent, whereas everything else is green. So that's interesting in itself. If you were looking for weakness, I would look at some healthcare names. I'm not, I'm looking for strength, right? So I know I want to have a semiconductor name on my focus list, a tech name on my focus list here, and then I'm going to put gold back on my focus list because I'm really looking to get an entry for a swing trade on gold. So, gold is going to go on my focus list. I watched it all day yesterday and had a bid in to buy gold, and price just never came down to my level. So, I'm hoping that potentially I could get a drop into 309.33 to 308.05 and potentially get a swing trade dated for August 15th. Sorry, a swing trade dated expiring August 15th to play GLD back up to this target zone here, 315 to 322 and a half. But I will watch it on today's price action. And if the PMZ is lining up near my zone that I would add to full allocation, then I'll do a half allocation above the PMZ and then add to the position here. So I'm going to use gold as one of my three to focus on. Then I want to pick a semiconductor name, and the ones I like to day trade. Wow, Taiwan semis through the roof, up 5.5%. I don't know on news or exactly what, but tested that supply zone, you got the initial reaction and busted through it and is coming all the way back up to the higher supply zone here. So Taiwan Semi's big move and created a beautiful demand zone down here. Now, what if we retraced all the way back to where this move, this imbalance candle came from? Melissa wants to be a buyer there. Okay, so that's $12 down. In the event that we something happens and we do that today or tomorrow, I'm going to have an alert down at this level and I want to be a buyer here. All right. So I'm going to just create a quick alert as far as choosing it as a name to focus on for day trading. If my bias right now is to the upside because the markets are green and this sector is very bullish, I'm not focusing on things that are at resistance. I would rather look for something that has further to resistance. So I'm not going to choose Taiwan semis to day trade today. Now let's look at NVIDIA and on my daily blueprint here. It is at a resistance area that is an upper weekly edge here at about 182 as far as where it could be going 183.30 by 185.43. I would love to see a pullback, and then an entry for a day trade here. So NVIDIA is a possibility to be able to day trade today. Now, the inside and up on this 2 hours, all the way back here at 170, basically 177 by 175.68. So it would need a big pullback to get into this buy zone, but I can on a 5-minute chart use the PMZ. And these labels up here will change according to the volatility pre-market. But you can see with the PMZ, I can just go long on above the PMZ and then have a trim at 181.89, 183.30, and targeting 185.43. Or in the event that price goes below the PMZ, then I would be targeting these levels down here, which would be 179.69 and then ultimately 176.92 to 175.68. So I do have some sort of a trading range here. I will know better, of course, after that economic data is released pre-market, but NVIDIA is a possibility to be something to watch today. Let's look at AMD. They reported earnings yesterday. I think it was yesterday or the day before. My days are all kind of moving together here. But it fell on earnings and it came down into this zone. Um, Now, the 50 and the 618 is its immediate resistance, that bearish golden pocket. So a initial target for this name would be 168.5 by 171. The ultimate target, though, is a supply zone that was created on higher time frame. But first things first, this would be the initial target. So I can see that I have about 2.5 to $5 of reward to the upside for a day trade on AMD. As far as the downside goes, you can see you'd have about $2 to $9 to the downside here on AMD. Now, I'm not sure. The vol Sorry, guys, I'm losing my voice. Hold on one second. All right. Whew. Okay. So, yeah, it has some elevated implied volatility still, which means, especially on a Thursday, that this premium could be exaggerated and it will die off quickly, even if the move isn't suggesting that that should happen. So I'm going to avoid AMD today and I will look to focus on it again next week for day trading. Let's look at Broadcom. Broadcom had a beautiful move yesterday. I unfortunately missed the entry at the PMZ on a retrace. I had my bid in, but it just didn't fill. Nonetheless, it was a beautiful move. So, Claudia, to answer your question, if it's a day trade, I am not running the fibs from a weekly chart, but I am aware of where those important weekly Fibonacci levels are, so that I make sure that it's part or on somewhere on my day trading chart. Now, as if I'm running Fibonacci for a daily blueprint, right? These day trading charts that I do each morning, then I'm going to use the most current range. So here on Broadcom, that would be this move from yesterday to the current high. And I'm going to use these Fibonacci levels. Okay. I look at all time frames, but if I'm talking about a day trade and say I wanted to buy the dip with confirmation in this bull channel today on Broadcom, then I'm going to use this range right here, and this is going to be my buy the dip zone, or the 50 to the 618 would be my buy the dip zone. So if I'm day trading, I'm using for entries. It's mainly based off the most recent move using a 2-hour chart. If it is, but the higher time frame Fibonacci levels, I that's why I start with those higher time frame so that I note the key levels and make sure they're a part of my day trading chart. All right. So with Broadcom, it's not going to be on my focus list because it is in this resistance area. So NVIDIA will be on my list. So I have gold now, GLD, right? I've already talked about that I want to day trade that and also swing trade it on a pullback. And then NVIDIA would be my semiconductor name that I'm choosing to focus on for a day trade. Now, looking at the next highest performing sector, the XLK, I can look at names like Apple, Microsoft, think of tech names, okay? So I'm going to go down the list. Apple had a uh, big move, nice big move on Apple. Here's the day trading chart on Apple. It's a very interesting. You have this target zone to the upside, basically 223 to 225 and a half. That would be the target. That's going to give you about 4.5 to 6.5, $7 of upside there. All right. Now, notice, Claudia, here's my Fibonacci's for Apple for today, and that is just measuring this breakout candle here, right? I just used that trading range. And so this bull channel would be an aggressive entry, but I imagine my PMZ is going to set up somewhere around here, so I don't need to draw that. But if I wanted to get an earlier entry than a pullback to this inside and up candle formation, I could use the 50 and the 618 as that potential by the dip zone. That would be, in today's case, below the PMZ, so I would look for confirmation there. Top of the morning to you as well, Oracle's Flame. Or all right. So Apple possible to day trade today, 223 to 225 and a half would be a target to the upside. And the target zone to the downside was created on this big bottoming wick yesterday, 211 and a half to 203.35. I like Apple there. I'm just going to scan down. Amazon's underperforming. Let's look and see, is Amazon at a key area of support? No, not really. It's coming into the top of the bear channel. It's just trading in the bear channel here. So I'm going to leave Amazon alone. It's at a upper daily edge here. Going on down, Google is in the communication sector. It is in an immediate resistance zone. I'm going to leave that one alone. I got a starter position on hymns yesterday towards the end of the day, right down here at the $50 mark. So I'm not going to day trade hymns because I'm already in a swing trade position there. Hood is a fun one to trade. Let's take a look. It's coming in right at resistance. We'll leave that alone. Looking on down, Oracle, what a beast of a stock all year. all-time high up here on Oracle, that would be the target to the upside. Looks like it's right at the upper weekly edge, this yellow line. If price can stay above this upper weekly edge, we treat it as support, and then we're targeting 260.87, which would be about $2 of reward. And then, of course, we would need to draw Fibonacci extensions to get further upside targets. So I'm just going to take this move from yesterday and draw those out and use the 38.2, the 618 extension, and the 100 to give me some extension targets above that all-time high if I were to trade Oracle to the upside here. Okay. And that's kind of what the trade would look like and use the PMZ there. Oracle's a possibility. Palantir's another name that's just to the moon, right? Through the roof. I like this rounding bottom look right here on Palantir. Palantir might make the list. Uh, Hannah, I Hannah asks if the ticker has a large pre-market move, would you consider it anyway, or move is mostly done? I look at the chart and then I think about risk to reward. So, as an example, something that has a big pre-market move would be Apple, right? So, yeah, Apple is up 2.81%. But what I'm looking at is my most immediate resistance here at 221. And I just say, hey, this thing is outperforming. It's hot right now. I can still trade it out of the PMC because it's a day trade, right? And I don't have a bias because I can trade it above the PMC or below the PMC. So Apple could be a possibility here. Depending on, of course, where that PMZ is going to print, but right now it's printing at 1 or 219.33. So you can see my first target up here at 221. That's plenty of reward considering that I use a 50 cent to a dollar risk. So I think Apple's the other name that I'm going to watch. Palantir, I also like this chart. I like that rounding bottom on the 2 hour. Your immediate resistance, though, is a little close, and that would be the all time high. But Palantir on some weakness early in the morning, if it comes down anywhere from like 178 to 175, that is an area that I will be watching on the side just to see if I could potentially get a day trade on Palantir on some weakness down to 178 to 175. All right, so I'm going to be watching that in the background, but I'm going to use Apple as the other name for my focus list this morning. So if you're not a member of the Trendy Trading Room, I encourage you to join us. I do have a link in the description down below. You can join us. I It's not just me in there. My mentor, Trendy John, is also in there with me every day, and we trade our money live Monday through Friday. We teach, we share alerts. Our alerts are API alerts coming directly from our accounts. And I encourage you to sign up for that trial if you're already not a member. You can find the link in the description below. And of course, if you have any questions and you're watching this video on replay, put them in the comments. Make sure you like the video, guys. I can see right now there's 25 of you on here. That means 16 of you have not taken 2 seconds to hit the like button. So I would certainly appreciate it if you would do that. Just give me a like. It doesn't take a lot of time. My channel is fairly new. I just started it in June. And so, in order to get seen on YouTube, I need those likes on the video. So if you could take a moment, smash the like button, I'd appreciate it. And I look forward to trading with all of you that are a part of the Trendy family today. Until next time, guys, I hope you have an amazing trading day. And just remember, process is the most important. Trade with discipline, be consistent, and then the profits will come. That's the meaning behind my name, price. Price. I focus on price action first, block out the noise, plan. Every trade I take, I have a plan before I get into the trade. I know where I'll enter, I know what my stop is, and I know my trim levels or target levels. Every single trade, no exceptions. And then profit. Profit comes after you get the other two right. All right? All right. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.